lowering drug costs. The purpose of this proposal is to develop a strategic plan that will guide pharmaceutical companies such as Pfizer to lowering the cost of drugs. In recent and past years, drug prices have increased significantly for many prescription drugs. An example of this drug that has risen is insulin. Insulin is needed for type 1 diabetes. This drug has nearly tripled or quadrupled in price, and now many patients cannot afford it. According to the U.S. Drug Accountability Office, prescription pharmaceutical sales increased from roughly $500 billion to $700 billion between 2005 and 2015, and their profits have risen almost 18% over the same period. We believe that rising prices is a result of pharmacy companies not having any competition. Drug prices are becoming more expensive to make, and that there are mergers and acquisitions in pharmaceutical industry. The downside to this has had an effect on society, which has resulted in the lack of affordability and also that people are forgoing their medications. Rising drug prices has led to many issues for this society, one being the lack of affordability. Many people have realized they no longer can afford to purchase the medications they need to live their everyday lives. A 48-year-old mother of 5 had to pull over while driving last March and be taken to the emergency room when her blood sugar dropped too low. One reason for that dangerous decline was that she had to cut back on her diabetes medication because she was unable to afford the $300 per month that her treatment would cost, even with insurance. Rising drug prices also leads to people forgoing their medications. Many people are forgoing prescribed doses and medications due to the rising costs and lack of affordability. This issue has led to a death of a young man with diabetes that was rotating his insulin due to rising costs. This has also led other companies and businesses to come up with alternative options and solutions to help fix this problem. One example being the FDA. The FDA was led to work towards a low-cost approval process for generic bioequivalent drugs in an effort to spur competition and the development of cheaper alternatives. My plan is to make drug prices more affordable for patients. Making drug prices more affordable is going to take time and cooperation. My aim is to develop a plan that will guide the transition of pharmaceutical companies such as Pfizer into lowering the prices of its medications. My plan will be implemented into 3 major phases. Step 1 being examining the approval reciprocity. The first action would be to change the FDA approval costs because they contribute to the overall drug costs. Pharmaceutical companies argue that the cost of FDA approval in clinical trials adds billions to the cost of prescription drugs. Step 2 is to develop government negotiations for medications. The purpose of government negotiations would allow more medications to be regulated by the government, since the federal government pays for more than a third of all prescription drugs in the U.S. Step 3 would be to bring competing drugs to the market. Finding new competitor companies would allow lower costs and the fight for more buyers. To conclude, let us summarize the advantages of our plan and discuss the costs. We believe that developing a plan to help guide the transitions of pharmaceutical companies such as Pfizer into lowering prices of its medications will overall help the society and companies in the long run. The cost of this plan would include how much time the pharmaceutical managers or CEOs would take to figure out new prices of their medications. Another cost would be that the pharmacy companies would lose money at first because of the lower costs, but it would have its advantages. The companies would eventually make more money since the people could afford to purchase their medications again, and the people who are forgoing them could now buy them. The benefits of lowering medication prices would outweigh the cost significantly. Lowering the cost of medications would save many people's lives. People will purchase more of their needed medications, and consumer experience would increase for those who are or who have struggled with affordability. We believe that lowering the prices of medications will give us a way forward into the future, a future where consumers and patients can live their lives without worrying about the cost of their prescription medications. We believe that taking the right steps now will help everyone in the society.